We are up for a very timely and relevant program today. I'd like to thank Brooks Hilliard and his team for putting this together and invite Brooks up to introduce our program and moderate our debate this afternoon. Brooks?
Thank you, Acting President Jason. And it is my pleasure today to introduce the program, the debate between the terrific candidates we have for mayor of the city of Phoenix. Without further ado, let me introduce Kate Gallego.
Thank you so much for having us. It's a little bit of Phoenix history today. This is our first debate of the general election, so we're so glad that you're willing to host us, and it's wonderful to be with Rotary. I am the daughter of a multiple-time Paul Harris Fellow who helped create several Rotary clubs and grew up going to the Rotary Youth Leadership Academy and participating, thank you to Dave, in some of the international exchange programs. So hopefully I am a positive product of Rotary, but if you don't like what you have here to say, it was a different club, so it's not your fault if you do. I served on the Phoenix City Council and as vice mayor for the city of Phoenix, working for really to prioritize economic development. As you heard in the introduction, I have an MBA and worked in that area as well as water rights before I ran for office. Was proud to represent a district that included downtown, parts of downtown and Sky Harbor. And as you heard from the introduction as well, I love traveling and worked very hard to expand international flights and would love to continue to do so. One thing that our moderator can do if you want to support the city of Phoenix is at the end of March, we're adding a new international nonstop flight to London. So now 2 airlines will be doing that route, and we just added a new nonstop to Germany. So if you want to do your civic duty for the people of Phoenix and help us get more international flights, we need you to all just take a vacation. But you should schedule it between Rotary meetings, of course. We have to have priorities. And that's the type of work I want to continue to do to make Phoenix a more global city. I was very proud to help bring Thunderbird School of Global Management to downtown Phoenix. It's like having our own think tank in our backyard to help us expand international trade and connectivity, a really wonderful partner. I have also worked very hard on infrastructure. Along with the mayor of Mesa, John Giles, serve on Building America's Future, which tries to prioritize infrastructure investment, and that's everything from a more competitive airport to just filling the potholes as well. Would be honored to have your vote on March 12th, which is our next Phoenix election. On November 6th election, we were honored to be the first place candidate with 45% of the vote. If I were 5% more popular, I might have been able to save you all an election in March, so I apologize for that. I did do my best to try to get every vote. But we won in the most conservative areas of Phoenix and the most progressive areas. And I think that's the kind of leadership and message that we need in this day and age, someone who can bring people together across the political divides and get things done to really push Phoenix to be a stronger and better city. We were endorsed by the Arizona Republic, which said I had the right vision to move us towards a knowledge economy, as well as to secure the essential services for the city of Phoenix, things like coming from that background with an interest in our water supply. That is perhaps the most important thing the next mayor will face. On a personal note, I am proud to be the mother of Michael Gallego and really want to make sure that we build a city so cool that he will never want to leave, one where he will be able to get a great job and a great education, and that starts with our youngest residents, really investing in early childhood and other programs, our great park system, to be a complete city. Another one of my, I hope, redeeming characteristics is I try hard not to go over time limit, so I am not going to use all of my time limit today and keep consistent with this club's values of ending on time. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Daniel.
I'm Daniel Valenzuela. I'm honored to be here. Thank you so much, first of all, for everything that you do and have done in our community. Someone who's born and raised in this city, who knows what this city has been, and someone who knows what we can become. I grew up with this city. I want to thank every one of you. I grew up part of my life down the street there near North High School. I would walk to Whittier Elementary there on 16th Street. I actually attended 13 public schools in Phoenix. I bounced around a lot. I was raised primarily by a single mom who worked really hard. My dad, who I loved with all my heart, he never overcame his demons of alcoholism. So we had it rough. It was the Balt School District for 9 months, and the Creighton School District for a few months, and the Roosevelt School District in South Phoenix. When things really got rough, back to the Dupervilla housing projects with my grandmother, and it just repeated, and it was tough. So I gotta tell you, my path to becoming a mayoral candidate for my hometown and to be on the stage, it certainly was not easy. But I'm here now. And I lived the childhood that makes me want a better future for your children and for all of our children. I'm running for mayor because I want everyone in this city to feel safe, regardless of where they live in this city. I'm running for mayor because I want a fully staffed police department and fire department, something that I worked on when I took office. I led the effort for the hiring freeze. And though we have more officers today, we still have 500 fewer cops on the street in Phoenix than 10 years ago. I'm running for mayor because I want our first responders to have the training and support needed to best serve this diverse community. I'm running for mayor because I want our children to know that opportunity awaits them here in Phoenix. Our kids don't have to leave home to chase their dreams. I'm running for mayor because I want Phoenix to continue to be the hub of industry, healthcare, advanced manufacturing, technology, transportation, today's industries and the next industries. I've been honored to lead the city's efforts in economic development for several years. I chaired downtown aviation, innovation, and economy. I'm running for mayor because I want our children to have lifelong learning opportunities even outside the classroom. I know what it's like to catch up or keep up, which is why I created Code Phoenix without raising a tax. This is the only city in America that offers free robotics, free coding, computer science to every kid in Phoenix through our public library system. I'm running for mayor because, like you, I really care about this place. And I want to thank you once again for this opportunity to have this important discussion as Election Day is nearing Phoenix. Thank you.
Thank you both for those statements. I have a question for both of you, and a brief question, and that is, if you are fortunate enough to be elected mayor next month, well, I guess the month
46
after
days.
Yeah. Will you come back to us a year from now and tell us about all the promises you made that you were able to keep and those that you were not able to keep?
Yes.
The answer is yes, and I like the question, and if you can Google this, I actually put out a year in review every single year for that reason. I want people to know what we've done, what I've done, what the time you've given me every single year, and I think that's a great trend. I've been trying to start a trend and it hasn't caught up, but I like the question, and the answer is absolutely yes.
Daniel has taken an outspoken position in growing the Phoenix Police Department, and I think you are on record as being less enthusiastic, perhaps actually wanting to shrink the police department. I'd like you to explain your views, and then Daniel can do it. And I'd like both of you to comment on how that, your perspective, how your approach might impact the troubling increase in incidents of officer-involved shootings in the Valley.
Wonderful. Thank you for that question. Actually, the very first policy statement I put out in my announcement video was saying that we needed to hire additional officers. So I absolutely do want to hire additional officers. I also think we need to invest in technology and staffing. If you look at groups like one police officer in the Phoenix Department told me that with SEAL Team 6, there's actually 10 support individuals for every officer, so it can't be just officers. We also need people with expertise in things like computers, which are increasingly important with crime, support systems. As we have better technology and more advanced systems, the police department needs to invest in technology. So I propose that we hire a technology director. I've also proposed that we hire civilians that can do some of the work, like, for example, directing traffic, so that we can free up highly trained officers to be out there and doing the most intense police work. It is a whole system. The police department has to work together. And I'm very honored to have the support of many of the individuals who have led the Phoenix Police Department. For example, Jerry Oliver, who served as the president of this organization, is supporting my campaign, and I will have great partners in investing in public safety. I want to build a city that is safe for everyone to call home. As you alluded to, Phoenix has been #1 in officer-involved shooting last year. That is not something we want to see. We want everyone to be able to come home safely, whether it's our officers or the people in our community. I've proposed a plan focused on transparency, technology, and training. Training is if there's making sure our officers have the best training to avoid confrontation, that our officers know, as Jerry Oliver often says, how to be problem solvers, not warriors. How do we work with people who are experiencing addiction or mental illness to de-escalate the situation so everyone goes home safely? Technology, I'm a big supporter of body cameras and would love to see that on every officer in the field. And then transparency, we have to have a dialogue with the community when something goes wrong. Share the information. If you look at what's happening in Tempe, that dialogue has been very important, and as the news coverage has evolved, we have learned a lot of very important facts about what's happening, so that would be my focus.
Daniel?
Thank you. And I am very outspoken. In fact, this is the #1 priority of any government, but certainly here in Phoenix. And it's more than words, it's action. The very first problem that I took on when I took office was to lift the hiring freeze in this city. Imagine going 5 years without hiring a police officer. How do we move an economy forward or education forward or anything forward if people do not feel safe? And that also includes our police officers, frankly. 500 police officers fewer today than 10 years ago. What does that mean to the people in this room? There are 120 beats in this city. Your neighborhood belongs to a beat. Your community, your area should have 4 more police officers than you have right now to get to 2008 staffing levels. Now, let's do something here. Raise your hand if you think you have enough police officers in your neighborhood. You have enough police officers in your neighborhood. I would love to know where you live. I would love to know where you, and that's a good thing if you have that feeling. I've lived nearby. I have neighbors who disagree, frankly. And we have some great police officers out there, but I gotta tell you, I also know what it's like, though my background has been in fire, to be out there at 2 in the morning at some of these emergencies, you know, on the front lines of reality, seeing what really is happening. When I'm mayor of the city, when I'm your mayor, I will do everything in my power to be sure that our first responders make it home to their families at the end of every shift, which means they need the proper support and training. We have already pushed. I've already pushed. In fact, we have civilians doing a lot of these jobs that should be doing. Next time you see someone who's taking care of a car crash, you might notice a lighter shade of blue. That's a civilian, okay? The body cams was something that we started in Maryville when I first took office, and in the middle of next month, you will see an item going to the full council for that program to go citywide. That's a good thing. But, and we do have to have conversations in our community. We cannot be afraid of that. 44 officer-involved shootings, that's a record. No one wants to see that. That's not good for our image. That's not good for our police officers. That's not good for the people who are raising their families in this community, right? But we have to have real conversations. What's the root cause? Is it the opioid addiction? Is it, you know, what is it? Is it behavioral health? What are we missing? We can't be afraid to have those real conversations. This is not the first time I've had those conversations now that I'm running for mayor. I've actually had those very tough conversations in communities like Sunny Slope and like Maryville. And they've been heated, but they've been necessary to move us forward. So it is a top priority of mine, and I appreciate the question. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think both Roger has, I think, Roger, you have another.
The news of the week in Phoenix is the passage of the approval to subsidize the Phoenix Suns remodeling of their arena. And Danny, I think you were supportive. I appreciate hearing your views on that. And then Kate can respond because I think you're opposed to it. And so if you would please tell us, and also since this morning's paper suggests it may end up on the ballot, I'd like to hear from each of you whether you think that's a good thing or an avoidable expense.
To answer your second question, could it be avoided, should it be avoided, I'll leave that to the people in this room and to others, people who live in Phoenix. But I think we need to start with facts. Okay, in the early 90s, Mayor Paul Johnson and his council made the decision that we would have an arena in downtown Phoenix. I remember, because I grew up here, what Phoenix looked like before we had the arena. Okay? That was a decision that was actually celebrated. I was not on the council to make that decision. But they also had the vision, this council, to create a sports facilities fund. And the fees would be derived from hotel fees and rental car fees. 90+% of the fees are collected through tourism for the purposes of keeping this city-owned asset moving. Okay? That asset, regardless of the tenants, the Phoenix Suns or anyone else, we have a $182 million economic impact every year from that arena. 1,100 jobs in the arena that are not Phoenix Suns jobs that are tied to 58 companies in our community, right? It has helped move downtown forward. Now, there's been a lot of misinformation. You would think that this was about subsidizing a sports team. I will tell you this, if that was the conversation, I would be a no vote. And I would encourage everyone on that council to be a no vote. That's not what this is. With or without the Phoenix Suns, that arena is ours. We are on the hook for it. So do we keep this anchor tenant moving, allowing us to move downtown forward, or do we not? The real question is, are we finished with evolving downtown Phoenix and moving it forward? So that's why I supported it. Thank you.
I believe that professional sports are among the most profitable enterprises out there, and that they should pay for their own facilities. Teams are winning championships in privately financed arenas. As candidates and leaders, we have to choose between many competing priorities. We can't have everything. We have homelessness, we have public safety challenges, we got to fill potholes. There are other priorities that we need to have. So this is an issue where we disagree, and I think that that's valuable. You all probably have very strong opinions on this, but my feeling is that if we're going to be investing in our downtown, things like the work I did to bring Thunderbird in partnership with ASU to downtown will pay even more dividends. They'll be having students, including executive MBAs, there year-round and educating individuals. Other communities have taken their tourism taxes and tried to address homelessness, saying that we want to have a vibrant downtown that feels very safe. And you've seen high-profile situations, such as in San Francisco, where conventions have said, because of concerns about safety and homelessness, we're going elsewhere. We do not have the same levels that San Francisco does, but we need to be investing in saying that's a community priority or it's not. I'm grateful that this club has said fighting homelessness will be your priority this year, but I suspect you cannot do it alone. And so we need to look with limited resources, are putting money into the Phoenix Suns arena and helping them get the very best scoreboard, fixing up the keg room. Is that the top priority of government, or should we let the Phoenix Suns fix their own keg room and take all of the benefits and profits from the beer? They'll take the risk and they'll take the benefit. So that would be what I would like to see.
Just to be clear, there are no rebuttals in this? Because
no.
this is,
Roger asked the question I was going to ask, so I'm going to switch to something else. But first of all, I think both of you file away. Kate, you and your son, and Daniel, you and Wendy and your kids will be great host families sometime. So I may come back to you with that request in a few years. I'll switch to another controversial subject, infrastructure related, and that's light rail. It's become very contentious along the extension down Central, down to South Mountain. I know that's not the last thought about where the light rail system should be expanded in our metro area. Is your feeling about the city's role and how that all should proceed? Kate, I think it's your turn to go first.
Thank you. So I do support the light rail system. I think we need a city where we have transportation options throughout our community. I love seeing students on the light rail. My campaign office is on Central, right by Brophy, and when school get out, that light rail system is packed. That's money that Central High School, our neighbor, doesn't have to pay for school buses because they work with the City of Phoenix and Valley Metro to provide passes to their students, and they've gotten great remarks from their auditors for how little of the dollars go into transportation and how much into the classroom. 40% of the riders on the rail are students. It's given them new economic opportunity. I support light rail going south of downtown. It serves a community that I represented on the city council and one of Phoenix's 2 concentrations of public housing. For those individuals who voted overwhelmingly in favor of it, it can be a real lifeline. Some of those units do not have air conditioning, and if you live in Phoenix in the summer without air conditioning, you can rest assured you don't have a 2-car garage filled with cars. So giving options to individuals is really important to me, and I will continue to support it.
I support light rail. I support the infrastructure. I appreciate the question, the way it was framed. The most important thing for me when it comes to light rail is the return on investment. When you look at the light rail lines from Mesa to Tempe, downtown, it's actually been, light rail and ASU have been the 2 major catalysts that have turned downtown and made it move forward. When you consider the return on investment, 1/4 mile in each direction of the track, okay? Now, I support it because of the ROI. I support it because it also helps revitalize entire areas. And I also support it thirdly because, yes, you can take it to school, a life appointment, a baseball game, whatever the case might be. But, you know, the conversation comes up a lot. Remember Proposition 104. At the end of the day, if you live in the city of Phoenix, you are currently being taxed with the understanding that something will happen, which is, again, very similar to the arena issue. Tourists were being taxed. We all understood that for the purposes of renovating a city-owned asset, and I think that's the kind of thing that gives government a bad name. Whether we agree with it or not, if we are collecting funds to do something, and we do something completely different with it.
I used to be a teacher, and now I work with an educational nonprofit here. And I was wondering, do your kids go to public school? And what is your plan to support public school so that children born and raised in Phoenix are also the future of Phoenix?
I support education, all education. I've actually been criticized for supporting the Great Hearts Academy into expanding into Maryville when I was first elected. I got to tell you, I got to remind you, I've attended 13 public schools in Phoenix. I am pro-education. My children, all 4, our children, are products of the public school system. I have been on record multiple years in supporting bonds and override campaigns using my own resources. So I mean, I believe in education and I'm pro-education. Yesterday, I spoke at one of the schools in our community that is a public charter school. You know, at the end of look, this is local government, it's nonpartisan, it's about moving education forward in our community, and I feel strongly about not playing politics with our children's lives. Personally, I support the public school system, but as mayor of the city of Phoenix, you have to be willing to talk to everyone. Our children and their future is at stake here.
A huge thank you to Angela for dedicating your life to younger people, whether it be teaching or mentoring or helping them with international exchanges. My son is 2, so he does not yet attend public school. He goes to daycare just south of downtown and absolutely loves it. He is definitely one of my many inspirations to have a strong school system, and I'm honored by the number of public school superintendents who have supported my campaign. I have a record of working with public schools on the city council to do smart partnerships. For example, I represented the Levine area in Southwest Phoenix, and as they built new schools, we worked with them to develop city parks in partnership. During the school day, the park would be the playground for the students, and then on nights and weekends, it would be open up to the community, bringing more people into the schools, and hopefully building more support much needed for our school system. So education will absolutely be a priority for mine. I've been a very strong supporter of our Head Start program, which helps get young people ready for school, and that's great for those young people, but if you have kids or grandkids going to school with them, it should matter to you too. If you don't want the teachers having to catch up individuals, little kids who aren't quite ready, and right now we have many students arriving at kindergarten who are not ready, which means they don't know how to hold a pencil, they may not know their colors yet. So I have proposed that we need to continue to invest in early childhood and time.
As a former Capitol Hill staffer and White House staffer, I changed my flight to be here today, and I'm so thankful that Rotary was able to pull this together, and Kate and Daniel, thank you for being here. This is my chance to be a political nerd in my own city, which is fun. So 2.5 years ago, PetSmart lured me away from New York City, which is a pretty great place to live. I was excited to make the move. My husband, who is Brooklyn born and raised, was skeptical. And we almost didn't make the move. I almost didn't take the position with PetSmart because he was afraid of not being able to find a job here. And luckily, we took the risk. He's now at Charles Schwab. We're very happily here in Phoenix. Now being at PetSmart and being on the hiring side, where I'm able to be part of committees, where we're trying to bring other people in, this is a very common theme. We're missing out on great talent. We can't get someone to come to PetSmart, our top choice as a candidate, in many cases because the spouse also needs to find a job here, and there's that fear that Phoenix is not a place where they can find a job. So as mayor, what would each of you do to attract more companies here so that we are getting better jobs in Phoenix and able to attract the talent and the families as opposed to just the one person?
Thank you so much for your commitment and for changing your flight and for your service to the country. I worked in economic development before I ran for office. As you heard, I hold an MBA, and this is a real passion of mine. We absolutely need to attract companies here, but I also want to grow the companies that are already here. We have some amazing entrepreneurs in this community, and it's a really, I love the entrepreneurial spirit here because our entrepreneurs seem more likely to work together with each other, support each other, which you don't hear as much in communities like Boston and Bay Area. I chaired the workforce committee for the city and tried to work with industries like healthcare, which I think are one that we can really excel in, to use our federal job training dollars to fill those gaps, often positions like nursing, but even nutritionists, and get individuals ready for the training. I would also love to continue the work we've been doing to help people with some of the financial services training that we need for employers, including Schwab, but also USAA and others. I think Series 7 in particular, there's just not people in this market. So I feel like training is a really important role for the city of Phoenix, but also a good job climate where City Hall is a partner, not a hurdle, and we cut as much red tape as possible so that when you're ready to grow and hire, businesses can continue to do so. And I think my emphasis on building an economy based on education and knowledge-focused jobs is also really important. A well-educated workforce will help us move to the future.
Now, I am very proud to have been supported by multiple chambers of commerce, including the Greater Phoenix Chamber of Commerce, and a lot of business leaders that are not necessarily part of a chamber. I'm talking about our innovators, our entrepreneurs, a lot of the entrepreneurs you'd find at places like Cahoots or Galvanize, these co-working spaces. I'll tell you this, if you want to attract businesses, and that certainly is the mission, it comes down to one word: talent. Our ability to attract, retain, and especially develop it, which is why, again, I created Co Phoenix, right? Before Code Phoenix, Read On Phoenix. I want every kid to be at reading level by the 3rd grade. It's working with our universities, my work with Grand Canyon University and helping them to expand as now the fastest growing university in the country while staying close and working with ASU and everyone else. It's our ability to attract talent. Develop talent is essential, right? Talent is what brings those companies here. 2012, we had 60 tech companies in downtown Phoenix when I took over the subcommittee working with our business leaders. Today, far more than 300. And the reason those companies are flocking to Phoenix is because we are developing that talent. It's going to take us a while to get to where we need to be. And by the way, thank you for representing or working for PetSmart. How many people realize that PetSmart is a local company right here in Phoenix, right? That's the kind of stuff we need to talk about. But we also need to talk about the entrepreneurs just getting started, bootstrapping it. Thanks.
What is the net cost of operating the convention center, and what would you suggest we do to increase its gross income?
You know, I don't have the number at the top of my head of what the net cost is. I'm happy to email that number to you if you don't mind. That said, that's a conversation. That conversation comes up quite often. How do we maximize the convention center? How do we bring more conventions into Phoenix, right? I mean, the weather is one way we're able to do it, but a vibrant downtown is how we do it, right? It's taking care of our city-owned assets, things that we're on the hook for, like the arena, but also like, you know, helping the Herberger Theater move forward. You know, helping creating an environment where those artists of Roosevelt Row, the Wayne Rainey's of the world, and so on, continue to want to invest in this community. The fact that we now have a campus of all of our public universities in downtown Phoenix, and now what's become a foodie destination, great bars, culture, right? The next version of downtown Phoenix, by the way, and how we continue to attract more companies, more conventions, which maximizes the convention center, is by leading with arts and culture as we move forward as well in the downtown Phoenix area.
Conventions are many people's first introduction to Phoenix, and we definitely need to put a positive face on that. That's why I've thought it's been appropriate if we take some of our tourism dollars and put them into things like fighting homelessness and building a safe downtown. I also think we ought to ask a question, how can we make the convention center work for us? What types of conventions do we want to be attracting? I'd love to push the city to try to attract more in industries, what I've mentioned. I think we have a bright economic future, such as healthcare. If we can get those medical conventions and others, when it's February and it's 4 degrees in Chicago, to come to Phoenix, they may fall in love with the city just the way I did and want to be here, and we can get more of those entrepreneurial communities if we show them. So we really ought to be intentional about how we use our tourism dollars. We've disproportionately been using them to attract mega sports events. The Super Bowl did seem to bring in a lot of business leaders, but some of the events like the college championship game, we have yet to see companies relocate as a result of that. So could we be putting those dollars to go after industries that are realistically going to come here and that we think will be part of a vibrant future with that knowledge-based economy that I keep talking about?
To make you aware of where some of us are coming from, this group, along with partners, built the Field of Dreams in Maryvale. Okay? And we have a member, Senator Kate Brophy-McGee, who is very active in what I'm going to ask you about, an issue about in Sunny Slope. Okay? So here's the question. In Sunny Slope, there's a methadone clinic at Northern and 23rd Avenue. It's cancer is what it is. My question is, there's been studies, there's been a lot of hot air, but why can't you just move that dadgum thing to Lincoln Hospital? And I don't care about public and private, it's a community hospital. Why can't you just move it to Lincoln Hospital? They got plenty of parking. Thanks.
Thank you. That is a very important issue and one that is related to several different problems we've been talking about in public policy. Unfortunately, we have an opioid epidemic in our community and not enough resources to address it. The Sunny Slope community has really felt the brunt of it. For a huge swath of the community, that was the only facility that provided 24-hour services, and the traffic congestion, the related problems, it's been very, very difficult for people in the community. And I think many of the people coming to that would rather have services in the community to which they are from. So we need to get services throughout Maricopa County. One area should not bear the brunt of social services for everywhere. There are protected uses and federal laws that make zoning for these very complicated. So I think part of the solution is just making sure that there are 24-hour services closer to the people who need those services so that one community doesn't have to bear the brunt. And also more treatment programs ahead of time. And I have very much supported Mayor Stanton's effort when he was our mayor to sue some of the opioid manufacturers and recover those funds, which we can put into much needed treatment in this community. So it's a very complicated solution, and if you live in that community, I am very sorry for its impact on you.
Yeah, I also appreciate the question. I too signed on with the mayor on that effort. You know, so that's been a growing concern, especially if you live in the area, which, by the way, I live just a few blocks away from that area. While it continues to play out, and Kate Bruford-McGee has been great, as well as Deborah Stark, my former colleague on the Phoenix City Council, neighboring District 3, right down the way there. I'll tell you what I've done specifically in that space. I've actually gone, put my eyes on it, met some of the people, talked to the people, talked to the neighbors, brought the neighbors over, created some of the smaller, these are not the end-all be-all, but these are some solutions to keep people on their property, right? Simply by asking, by bringing people together, creating more shade areas on their properties so that people who are waiting for their treatment are not elsewhere. And so trying to help that clinic best run their business as a community partner. And again, hearing directly from the neighborhood leader who is being impacted. That's where Phoenix Cares, by the way, was born. Having a conversation, Phoenix Cares is an effort that we started in Phoenix around behavioral health, homelessness, and those types of things. It happened right across the street from that methadone clinic. Thank you.
Okay, that was the last question. It's now time for closing statements. Because we're running just a little shy, can you make your closing statement 2.5 minutes instead of 3, please? Kate goes first.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having us here today. It's wonderful to be able to have a conversation based on the issues. The election is coming up soon, March 12th, and I would be honored to have your vote. I am hoping to lead Phoenix to become an even greater city. We are the 5th largest city in the country, and we should have all of the international nonstop flights, business development, and resources befitting a city that is literally larger than 10 states. We are larger than the state of New Hampshire. We are larger than the entire population of Hawaii. I think I have the right background to lead the city of Phoenix as we go into the future. I have that economic development background, as well as having worked in water rights and in a city we're so dependent on water, and with a drought on the Colorado River. I hope that I bring the right background to make sure you don't have to worry about our water supply, but that we are making smart decisions. I'll continue to work to make sure we have leading health care for all of our families, and that we invest in a great educational system that will make us all proud to call Phoenix home. The election is coming up on March 12th, and we would love you to join our group of supporters, including the Arizona Republic. But the most important thing is to be involved and vote. And in closing, I want to thank this club for all the great things you do for our community, from the Field of Dreams to working to help us with human trafficking and fight homelessness. You have so much that you could spend your time, and we are very lucky you're willing to help this community. I'm Kate Gallego. I will be around after if you'd like to learn more, have additional questions you didn't get answered, or if you'd like to be involved in our campaign. We would be honored to have you. Thank you so much.
Daniel?
Thank you all for this opportunity. It's been humbling. I got to tell you, never in my wildest dreams did I think one day you're going to run for mayor, right? And to stand here with the support of your police officers and your firefighters and your business leaders, local neighborhood leaders, valley mayors, people like Mayor Jim Lane from Scottsdale, Anna Tovar from Tolleson, Kathy Carlette, Peoria, Georgia Lord, Goodyear, local elected officials here in Phoenix, Councilwomen Laura Pastor and Deborah Stark. What's important to note there is that is what bringing people together looks like. Republicans, independents, Democrats, moving a community forward. This is really important to all of us. Because I will tell you, running for mayor has been pretty nostalgic for me. Thinking of the classroom that I was once at, gazing out into downtown Phoenix, and I often wondered what that building was, City Hall. Who were they? Did they know if I even existed? Did my mom matter to them? And I'll tell you something. I want you all to know that you matter. I see you. And when I am your mayor, you will have someone at City Hall who constantly gives back to the city all that it's given to me. Hope, opportunity, and jobs. The city raised me, made me the person I am, the husband, the parent, the lifelong public servant, the firefighter, the former council member, and even vice mayor. But at the end of the day, I want you to know that I lived, like you, your motto, service above self. So thank you for what you're doing in our community every single day and for this city. Thank you.
Before I turn the meeting back over to Jason, I want to personally thank you both. I think we have a wonderful pair of candidates. I don't think the city can go wrong with either one of you, and we're very proud to have had you come here and speak to us today.
So to wrap up our meeting today, I want to thank Roger and Brooks for putting on the program. I'd like to thank the candidates for coming and spending part of their days with us. In recognition of your participation in our program today, we've made contributions to Mark Community Resources, which provides educational, therapeutic, rehabilitation, and social services to children and adults with developmental and physical disabilities and behavioral health challenges.